Squirrel Cage Jail was built in 1885 and was in continuous operation until 1969. The design and size of the historic Squirrel Cage Jail made it a one-of-a-kind structure. It was one of 18 revolving jails built. It is the only three-story one ever built. Built at a cost of about $30,000, the unique jail has 3 floors of revolving pie-shaped cells inside a cage. Think of it as a lazy Susan. Just a large coffee pot water tower sitting over a truck stop. City, Iowa is the barn quilt capital of the world. These are quilts that are hung on the sides of barns, not quilts big enough to cover barns, which would be insane. On the website, you can actually print out a map of all of the barn quilts in Sac City. I didn't have enough time. I didn't find all of them, but please enjoy the ones that I did. They really are beautiful. Even the local motel was in on it. Storm Lake, Iowa, home of the grave of Roger Peterson, the 21-year-old pilot who was behind the controls of the plane that crashed in 1959, killing himself, Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. And there is actually a lake at Storm Lake, and it was absolutely beautiful. There's also a great bike path, jogging path, picnic tables, playground. Again, just a really nice place to visit. Sioux City is forever connected to the Lewis and Clark expedition by the fact that the only person to actually die on the expedition, Sergeant Floyd, expired here. Historians believe he probably died of appendicitis. So obviously the city built the Sergeant Charles Floyd Monument. His final resting place overlooks the Missouri River. On July 19, 1989, en route from Denver to Philadelphia, United Flight 232 had its number 2 engine explode. This destroyed all of its hydraulic systems, which should have made the plane impossible to control. But somehow its pilots kept it airborne for 44 minutes, long enough to crash land at Sioux City's airport. The right wing tore off and the fuel tanks blew up, but 185 people came out alive. The Flight 232 Memorial commemorates the rescue efforts undertaken by the Sioux City community after the crash. A statue depicts one of the news photos taken that day of Iowa National Guard Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Nielsen carrying a 3-year-old child to safety. You don't often get a chance to see a 15-star, 15-stripe American flag. War Eagle was a Santee who later became chief of the Yankton Sioux tribe. But his principal claim to fame among non-natives was that he was friend of white man. That is the lone epitaph written on the bronze plaque under his 13-foot-tall likeness atop a high bluff near the confluence of the Big Sioux and Missouri rivers. A place where people want to stop. On the eastern edge of Iowa, not far from the Mississippi River, adjacent to the small town of Walcott, you will find a place like no other in the world. The Iowa 80 truck stop, now the world's largest truck stop, established its home here in 1964 and is now in itself a home away from home to countless drivers and a destination for travelers as well. Some say Iowa 80 truck stop is like a small city. Others have likened it to a trucker's Disneyland, but all can agree it's a place not to be missed. Yes, this is an actual place. So now it's September 11th, and I came across this Iowa Firefighters Memorial. And like everybody else, it was an emotional day. They had this actual piece of beam from the World Trade Center, and it was a very touching memorial. Again, a very emotional day for everyone, and I was just so glad that I stumbled upon this and that I could pay tribute to these heroes. So this is purported to be the world's largest wooden nickel. These sculptures are supposed to represent abstract seagulls in flight, but it also resembles crashed airplanes. Kind of awkward since they're in front of the Eastern Iowa Airport. This small quaint church is on the site that inspired William S. Pitts to write the famous hymn, "The Little Brown Church in the Vale." Something else I stumbled upon was this Veterans Memorial Park. When I arrived at the Buddy Holly plane crash site, I was amazed at how many cars and visitors were still going to the cornfield after 60 years. If you're too young to remember this event, Buddy Holly was a performer who had a hit single out, Peggy Sue. The Big Bopper had Chantilly Lace, and Ritchie Valens, of course, had La Bamba. All three died in a plane crash in a field in Iowa in 1959. And as I reported earlier, Roger Peterson, the 21-year-old pilot, was also killed. If you're not familiar with the day the music died, I suggest you Google it. Tragic story. And like I said, after 60 years, people are still paying their tributes. Also in Clear Lake is this odd pyramid house. The Surf Ballroom is where Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Ritchie Valens played their last gig before that fateful night that they boarded that airplane and it crashed and they were all killed. It continues to host concerts to this day. cross streets near the ballroom have been renamed after the three that perished. The payphone where Buddy and Richie made their last phone calls has been preserved. Pella, Iowa is home to the largest Dutch windmill in the United States. You might also be familiar with Pella windows, which are manufactured here. So this was not on my itinerary. This was not part of the plan. I just happened to see one of those brown roadside signs on the highway that said American Gothic House, and I was like, okay, what is this? Let's go check it out. And I wasn't disappointed. We've all seen the picture numerous times, hundreds of times maybe. But the backstory is amazing. It's just too much to get into on this video. Google American Gothic House. It's a great story. It's a great place to visit if you're ever in Eldon, Iowa, which I don't know how many of you are going to be there, but you know what? It was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Sometimes the unexpected side trips are the best. And this was one of them.